about to get started to see which one can be the most retarded. Tinfoil haters, it's time to start the show. Tinfoil haters, it's time to start the show. Tinfoil haters, don't tell them what to say. Tinfoil haters are here to save the day. And Sammy are about to get started to see which one can be the most retarded. Tinfoil haters, it's time to start the show. Tinfoil haters, it's time to start the show.
Here we are. Welcome back to another episode of Tinfoil Haters. How are all you vital idols doing? Man, just got in from Nadia's stream, which is still ongoing. So for those of you over there, maybe you're catching the stream late. Hopefully you all had a great time. It was a great time being on the little bit I was talking about Vincent Price films. Going from one type of horror into another. From horror films, the fake, the very obvious Hollywood, it isn't real, to what might be true horror. We'll see. We're gonna break this down. Before we break down anything, come on, lovely co-host here, Sammy 3Pete. No Cinevere tonight, unfortunately, because as you all know, she is on vacation. She's got family time, which is far more important than internet life. Sammy, tell the people who you are and what you do.
I'm Sammy 3Pete. I'm the other half of Tinfoil Haters and Detroit-based musician. I got my own channel. Please go to Sammy 3Pete on all things. I just started a Kick. Give me some love on Kick. But
we're also on Kick right now. This is streaming live to Kick.
Oh, we'll see. I'll
the last episode of Tinfoil Haters we did is the biggest video I've ever done on Kick. It is dwarfing the other show I do on Kick. So we'll see if the trend continues with this one. That being said, let's say hey to all those vital idols out in the chat. Before we do, Hotter with Nads, member for 6 months, a girl. Again, she's streaming. Make sure you sub to her, give her some love. To the member chat saying, yes, they are still among us. Don't ask stupid questions. So we know where Nadia sits on whether this is real, fake, the whole nine. We also got Dexter, our best mod in the whole damn land, showing up early as shit. Peepers, the titty kitty, is here. Half Angels, the Giant. Sounds like some interesting shenanigans we'll be setting up. Oh, very interesting indeed. Duckamon, this is going to be a good one. Well, thank you so much. We definitely hope so. The ever lovely Piranha Pouch is in the house. She also did the awesome thumbnail for last night's Resident Evil 4 stream. Thank you so much, Pouty. Paul Bitersmith, the IRL bestie, is here. You'll love to see it. And again, it is a glorious opening. Sammy and Suno did great work on that. Of course, you got Sammy out here talking to you guys in the chat. Mike Lee, the Prude Whisperer, says you start your new job next week. Mad congrats. Hopefully it's good for you. Best of luck, the whole nine. You're going to absolutely kill it. Little Anonymous in here saying, yo, y'all, how you doing, LMA? You love to see it. Is there anybody else? Jamma Lama is here. Jamma Lama, how you doing, brother? Thank you so much for showing up. Fabio Moreno says, hello, gentlemen. Hello to you as well, buddy. And then Jake, what's good, haters? Huzzah, LMA. Yeah, you love to see it. Thank you so much. Molly Kyle is in the house. Yes, agree. The Prude Whisperer is going to kill it. And I think that is everybody. And we'll, of course, more of you will pop in as the show goes on. But yes, we first of all, Sammy, did I tell you where? Well, before any of that, Jake Martin coming in that $10 super sticker. Jake, thank you so much. You didn't need to, you did. It means the absolute world to me. And we gotta get you your clip, son.
You know what? You just made the list. Oh no! Oh, here we go.
You love to see it. Thank you so much, Jake. So yes, this. Do you know where this idea spawned from, Sammy, for this week's episode?
No, I mean, you texted me and you were like, hey, you know, are you aware of this? And I was like, well, yeah. And
I wasn't.
Oh, really? This is like one that circulates through a bunch of like military guys.
Yeah, exactly. So it came up on Zax's show on last week's What's Good Wednesday. And I had never I never heard of this, and someone mentioned the Kandahar Giant because we were talking supernatural stuff on his stream. I was like, the fuck is the Kandahar Giant? So I googled it while people were talking about it, and immediately I sent it to you. I was like, hey yo, what do you think about doing this? So this is all new to me.
Yeah, it's weird too because I've heard different iterations of this story, and there's a lot of things that okay, you know how we always say that, like, we always think that Bigfoot stories are like bullshit,
Right.
because everything's always hyper specific to that story, maybe besides that the animal had big feet, or you know, like even that one guy when he called in, he's like, well, it might be a man, and you're like, well, then it's obviously not a Sasquatch if you think it's a man. Those are wildly different things. There are very, this story gets told over and over and over again with very little variation.
Yeah, so guys in the chat, I just put a poll out there as to whether or not you believe in giants. Do giants exist? Yes, no, they once did but are extinct. I want to get sort of your guys' thoughts on this before we go over the legend, the story, the conspiracy theory, and then we'll run the poll again near the end to see if anybody's opinions have been swayed or changed. So to start this off, Sammy, do you believe this story?
Yeah, I'm inclined to believe it. Just because there's so many people that who have heard the story going like, that's, you know, it's not like it was some crackpot you know, guy like out in the middle of nowhere drinking moonshine. Like, this was a platoon of soldiers who all saw the same thing. And you know, the story, any military person who, like, when I was doing research, they're like, this seems viable. There's things that these soldiers were told to do, which leads me more to a conspiracy, that where so they didn't know what they were getting themselves into, but it sounds like the top brass did. So it's yeah, so I'm inclined to believe it.
Well, we're gonna start with going over the first few minutes of this video. I'm not gonna watch the whole 11 minutes of it, but just to familiarize yourselves with the initial story. Then we're gonna do a much deeper dive on it than this does. But for those of you that do not know what the Kandahar Giant is, supposedly, true story about the army, probably Army Rangers, finding a literal giant, in the vast desert and more remote areas of Afghanistan. And this is, if the interview is to be believed, an interview with one of the soldiers that was present for the op. So let's go. If at any point you need me to pause it, Sammy, let me know.
Oh, but by the way, I watched this morning.
Oh, you watched this exact one?
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, I watched several videos on it, but yeah, I think this is the one that's going to give the best. Yes, a red-haired giant as well. Thank you, Fabian.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that is true. That's part of the mythos.
Hello, guys. Today we will listen to the original 2 interviews with the Special Forces soldiers done by L.A. Marzulli. One of them had personally seen, attacked and captured the Kandahar Giant in Afghanistan with a team of military troop. The other soldier recounts the story he heard about the Kandahar Giant while serving his duty in Afghanistan. Keep in mind, we have done a video to explain the difference between Nephilim and giants. The correct term to address that Kandahar Giant is actually Rephaim.
Now, we're going to be addressing later on in the show whether there is any connections to the Nephilim, to the Rephaim, where the confusion is, things of that effect, because that's something Sammy and I were talking about is this Nephilim? Is this not? You know, we'll dive into that further.
In Afghanistan in 2002, and you were called into a very remote section of Afghanistan because a patrol had basically gone missing.
Exactly.
Okay, and there's no villages around
nothing
for miles.
Right.
So it's very remote.
Yeah, very remote. So we flew in. To about 4 kilometers. We're hiking through the same area where they were supposed to make one of their checkpoints, one of their rally points. And before we left, there was all kinds of what happened with an ambush, but that was even odd because at point of ambush, we'd call for maybe close air support, something, okay? There was no calls made, just off the bridge. So we're coming down a mountainside, and it was a nice path, a goat path. As we bent around this corner, you could see this opening of the cave. There's a cave as we're coming around. And then I see there's a lot of rocks, which is another oddity, and then bone matter. When I'm not close enough to identify what kind of bones, but I did see something I knew was a piece of our communications equipment. So,
all right. So for those of you that maybe are having trouble understanding it or having issues with the audio or whatnot because his voice is being modulated, there is actually also a video version of this interview that I watched. Like I watched the video version, but I think that the version of this video, that audio only, it does have a bit more information. But so that screenshot you saw at the beginning that I had the dude's face blurred out, there's a full video of that guy. What they're stating is that their special forces team was sent to this remote part of Afghanistan. They don't know what for. It's not, there's no Taliban issue. It's very remote. There's no, civilization, things like that. They stumble upon a cave, and there are bones outside the cave, as well as what is very easily identifiable as busted up comms equipment from the previous platoon that was sent out there. That's why they're being sent out. When I say they don't know, they know there's a team that went out there previously that never made it back. So whether this is a rescue op, something like that. So that's where we're at in this. What up, UAF Omega? How you doing? Personally, I believe beings like Bigfoot, which usually are misidentifications, are Nephilim, going based on the Book of Enoch, and angels are sinned with animals, not just humans. Again, we'll be getting on into all that as it goes on. Sammy, any thoughts thus far on the soldiers coming across the comms equipment and bones?
Well, one, that would freak me right out. But I mean, just this guy doesn't sound like a crackpot, right? Or like, he doesn't. He sounds very specific. Like, we were like 4 clicks here. We came to this cave. And then, and another thing too, I was thinking about this to myself is, that's how like every scary movie starts, right? Like, don't go into the cave, but like that's what the war in Afghanistan was. Like they had to go and clean out these caves because that's where the terrorist supercells were.
That's where Osama bin Laden was right now, was in a fucking cave. Like,
yeah, exactly. So like that's all they did. So like people will be like, well, what were they going in the cave for? It was like that's what the mission was. So I mean, so heaven forbid you come across this cave.
Let's keep going.
Instantly, we're thinking ambush, maybe animal, could be anything. And there was enough room in front of this cave, but it had a sheer drop off. But there was enough room that we actually got into a decent dispersal in case of ambush.
You see something coming out of the cave, and it's moving with a speed and agility that catches you off guard. Everybody.
And he comes out. It was a man at least 12 to 15.
Bit of editorializing with the audio there.
Okay. So when I was listening to this at my desk, I'm still doing my work, but then I hear I'm like looking around, like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, no, it's
thought someone was having a seizure in the lobby or something.
Well, even if they were, their fate probably would have been better than this soldier known as Dan, who we're about to figure out his fate here in a moment.
This is a monster. Red beard, then his hair was long past the shoulder.
We covered that a few weeks ago, Fabian.
Dan runs at him and starts shooting, which broke all of us into the reality. Because it was
so
surreal.
Now your training is kicking in.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Muscle memory. Complete muscle memory. While Dan is moving at him, another bro of mine's laying down fire, and I start firing. He skewers Dan. He's now got him on this pike. It went through him. And he's still got him. And he's coming after more. We all just clicked in. I don't know what it was, But I remember we're all like, shoot him in the face, shoot him in the face. And all weapons components were in force. We had 308s, and we had Barrett 50s.
Now he says they have Barrett 50s, and that's what they're going. Like, again, they've got carbines, and a Barrett 50. Now, for those of you guys that don't know, if you've seen the photo on my Instagram, this is the shell casing comes out of a Barrett 50. These things are fucking insane. You've seen the picture of me holding the gun. It is massive. Barrett 50s are fucking massive. I mean, and this fucking giant is tanking Barrett 50 rounds to the face. So just so y'all have an idea of what they're dealing with.
This is sounding longer than it took. We're talking 30 seconds. And he's taking multiple hits and is still moving. Dan was dead. Okay. And why is a good man, probably one of the best men I know, now dead. Before I'd left, they were already starting what they call a 9-line, which is a medevac request. They're sending out a medevac request, then all of a sudden it's not a medevac request. All of a sudden we had a helicopter show up because, like I told you, it was a large precipice and a sheer drop. So the helicopter just came up from the drop. They had dropped netting, which is like cargo netting. It's like squares. We were told we had to bundle him up. And we get another bigger helicopter, but it's almost like a Jolly Green Giant used to look back in the day. They could get, through this area. Because the mountains, you gotta remember, Chinooks could only go in certain places because they had enough lift. Mm-hmm. And so we got him.
So basically, even though they called for medevac for Dan, there was already a black helicopter at the ready, at the waiting. They drop this giant, helicopter appears, net this bitch up. So clearly the higher ups, if we're to believe this story, knew what they were going to find, and they wanted this sumbitch. Sammy, you got anything to add?
No, I just R.I.P. Dan.
Yeah, right. R.I.P. Dan. World will never have another.
I'm on there. The thing was too big. We couldn't move it. It smelled worse than a skunk. A corpse that's been around for a while.
Really fell.
Oh, it was like a combination because of the, how do you put that, the persistence of a skunk smell. But once the helicopter came in, dropped its little hook, and off he goes. The communication was.
And that's about all we need to do for the video. This video did come from a website that a channel I looked into called Global Net Spiritual Domains. They've got 11.5K subscribers, and some of their videos do exceedingly well. 77K views, 43, 16, things like 29K. Others not so good. 107 views 2 months ago. Not even 200 views 5 months ago. 200 views 6 months ago. So very hit or miss channel. Kind of like your boys here. But there, if you look at their description, the Global Disclosure Network and ET and Ancient Secrets, Global Net Spiritual Domains, is a non-profit brand channel shared amongst its former owner, developer, editorial, and voluntary support, being co-managed by Metatron Technology since 2019. Now, unfortunately, I could not find much info on Metatron Technology, even though I did try, because there's a lot of companies that have this business name. And so I don't know what Metatron Technology, if it even exists, is actually tied to this channel. And then if you go to their website, this is the website for that YouTube channel. It doesn't really have a lot. It's literally just this. Map view on mobile is above 70% zoom level. Like I don't even know what that means. You can click this here about. We've gotten some materials for sharing and tree maps, digital resources, and upcoming updates. And that's it. Like I don't know. This is very strange website. So, but that's the initial information on where we pulled this from. There's gonna be more, but so you've got the initial story. Any thoughts on whether this story is believed thus far? And Sammy, that's mostly for you since you're obviously the one here in real time.
Yeah, no, I believe it. There was interviews with other guys. There, I even saw a video where they supposedly had the spear or the weapon that this thing
Yes, I
had.
saw that video as well. They supposedly had the pike that
Yes, the
that
pike.
got Dan.
And I buy it. Like I said, it seems like the top brass knew what was going on, and it just seemed totally plausible that these soldiers would just unfortunately happen upon a cave, and this is an area that because these sightings aren't just privy to Kandahar. I mean, they're all over the Middle East. It's they're in every single culture that we have at one point or another has some story about a giant.
Not just a giant, but there are other cultures' stories of redhead giants. We'll get into that in a moment because I agree. I'm glad you brought that up. First, I want to tackle who was doing that interview, the non-modulated voice you heard. And the non-modulated voice was this guy right here, L.A. Marzulli. Pretty, modest-sized channel. We're talking almost 250,000 subs. L.A. Marzulli is an author, lecturer, filmmaker. He's penned 8 books, including the Nephilim trilogy, which made the CBA bestsellers list. His new series, On the Trail of the Nephilim, uncovers startling evidence. There's been a massive cover-up of what he believes are the remains of the Nephilim, the Giants mentioned in the Bible, and he is now working on Volume 2. Ancient artifacts and megalithic structures at various locations will be revealed in Watcher's Age. Marzulli is a frank supernaturalist who has lectured on the subjects of UFOs, the Nephilim, and ancient prophetic texts. Presenting his exhaustive research at conferences and churches, he will as well as appearances on interviews and numerous national and international radio and television programs. And you can go to his website, which I took the liberty of doing, and it's mostly just a place for him to shill his books. You got rungs of disclosure, starting at $21.99. His front page is about all of his products. We go up, they come down mug for $20. His entire lecture series for $25, and he's got the 6 pages of shit to buy. Needless to say, it's again author, filmmaker, lecturer. He definitely wants to make coin off of this stuff. So I don't know, Sammy, does that for you make it more like, is this a grift? Is this somebody just, selling the equivalent of make your dick bigger pills, but for supernatural shit? Like, where are we at?
I don't know. Guy's got to make a living. It's not just like he's shilling out mugs and stuff. He's writing a ton of books on the subjects. But I haven't read one of them. So, but I could say, like, throughout that interview, he wasn't filling this dude's head with any ideas. He was just letting the guy talk. So it's kind of hard to say that he's grifting when you're just interviewing someone. I haven't seen anything else, but I mean, that #1 Amazon new release sticker right by the book there makes it like 6 pages. But then again, how many of them are his books? Like he seems like they have t-shirts and stuff, but it looks like he has quite a bit of his books on there. First 3 are
UFO Disclosure complete series of 10 DVDs on sale for $125 instead of $160. What a steal!
Wow.
You want to read this chat real quick? This is an interesting chat we got from Old Man Cad.
Yeah. I jumped on because of the Giant of Kandahar. While I was deployed there were spots where we couldn't go and subjects we didn't talk about. And that was one of them. And you're not the only person that I've heard say that. By the way, thank you for your service. And let's see, I was at Kandahar, AB, almost a year. So, and
what
like I said,
AB Airbase is AB Airbase.
Yes.
Okay. Ironically, the story always reminds me of a TV series Lost Tapes episode called Cave Demons. A basic story: 3 U.S. soldiers attacked by bat human hybrids in the Iraq caves. We'll have other instances like that in this episode. Cad, if you want to tell us more in the comments, or if you want to come on and talk, by all means, you would absolutely be welcome on. Let me know if that's something you're wanting to do or willing to do or allowed to do. I don't really know, but if this is something that you've got direct information on, then by all means, I will say
don't get disappeared for our little show.
With all the eyes and skies out over the area, I wonder if there's footage that's compartmentalized. Well, and that's a big point of contention amongst this, because this has been dismissed as a hoax for years upon years. One of the main reasons being that there is literally no official paperwork on this, no Freedom of Information Act requests, no official military documents, heavily redacted or not, no that we can find proof of this op ever being on the books. So people said, "Oh, this is just basically a modern day urban legend." So again, that's a very easy way to dismiss stuff, absolutely. Or you could, state the obvious that, or at least what might be obvious to some. Well, yeah, if this shit is being censored or covered up, then the government's done. How long did they keep all the JFK stuff under wraps? I mean, we're literally just now seeing some of that being drip fed after like 70-ish years. They won't let the existence of giants get out of the public no matter what. How convenient, no paperwork. Old Man Cad says, yeah, we're not going to see that sort of stuff. If it's TS, if it's top secret and we look bad, you will not find anything. I mean, I don't doubt that. And as much as I love our boys in uniform, as much as I love my country, I hate our government. Again, full on anarchist. Lots of people showing Animal Planet. Oh yeah. Lost States was great back in the day. And then I do want to bring up, let me find, here it is. So back to that video that we were watching. I feel like the description, what it says in the description, is important. I would love to get your guys' thoughts on this. I'm not sharing the screen, my bad. There we are. Here's the complete excerpts of the original Kandahar Giant interviews that went viral in 2016. The U.S. Special Forces soldier who shot and loaded up the Giant to be transported in AFB in 2002, plus the second soldier who recounts the story he heard while posted in Afghanistan in 2005, both interviews done by L.A. Marzulli. All the sound effects were originally inside interview video. Third military guy is the pilot who transported the Giant, interviewed by T. Alvarino. Link to the full interviews in our comments. However, please note that there's also that also because of the viral interview, people will till now mistaken for Nephilim as having 6 or 12 fingers. Not true. The reason why we emphasize the term Rephiim is due to the religious respect for the angels. In the Hebrew Pentateuch, if I'm saying that correct, and the Ethiopian Book of Enoch, Lyran are the ancestors of Nephilim, who begat Rephiim, who begat the 12-fingered giants. Nephilim are the ancestors of the men of renown. It is actually a respectful word. We should not use to describe those with genetic mutation of polydactyly. The Bible, out of respect, has never mentioned the descendants of Goliath as being Nephilim. Their descendants together with all 12-fingered giants are always known as Rephiim. I'm actually one of the only few people who publicly explain this Hebrew term. I was shown by luminaries the Kandahar Giant had a red hair. Goliath had copper blonde hair. The Nephilim had dark blue hair. Lyran had color, which I'm not allowed to mention publicly. I don't know why you would not be allowed to mention a color publicly, but yeah, Rephiim is crazy. So yeah, the comments here are stating that there's effectively no relation to the Nephilim. That the Nephilim is a positive term. I won't lie. I have literally never heard Nephilim used as a positive term, so I don't know where they're getting that.
No. Yeah, I mean, pretty sure in Genesis there's people who believe that's why like God flooded the earth and
yeah. Well, that was in Numbers, I believe. Yes. So the Nephilim are mentioned in both Genesis and Numbers. I believe it's Genesis. Is it 3:16? I believe. Hold on a sec. Give me one moment.
Yeah,
check this.
Something like that. And also, I think Nephilim doesn't like translate to giants.
No, sorry, 1330. Genesis 6:4 and Numbers 13:33 are the only accounts of Nephilim in the Bible. So Genesis 6:4, the verse found within the account of widespread wickedness and corruption before the Great Flood. So yeah, and then the Nephilim are described as being on earth in those days and also afterwards. So just the presence both before and after the flood. The meaning of the continued existence after the flood is debated. And then Numbers 13:33 verses part of the spies report to Moses about the land of Canaan. The spies state they saw
Canaan.
A giant or Nephilim. Canaan. Thank you. Giants or Nephilim in Canaan. The verse further fuels interpretation of Nephilim as a giant beings and the sense of fear and intimidation they instilled in the Israelites. So, and then that's all we get about Nephilim in the canon of the Bible, and the rest is apocryphal in the Book of Enoch.
Yeah, the apocryphal books, like you said, there's the Pentateuch, which that's not looked through by the Christians. You had the Book of Enoch, but they're even just by the name itself. What I was researching today, it was like it has nothing to do with giant. Like the best translation you can get is like fallen one. So and they're supposed to be the prodigy of fallen angels and things like that. So
fallen angels and human women.
But
Kaz says, go on. I'm sorry.
No, but I'm saying another translation, or in one of the things that was written and why a lot of people associate them with giants is keep in mind, all of this is translated from things written thousands of years ago. So they're saying like a regular man going up against them would be like a cricket going up to a regular man. So they're saying, oh, well, that means that they're massive. It was like, or they're formidable warriors. There's other ways that you can make that comparison. So it really is just kind of,
it doesn't translate to literal height.
Yeah, exactly.
So Old Man Kaz says, I had a top secret SCI clearance for 20 years. I don't know what SCI is. You'll have to inform us of that. Most of the stuff I worked on was part of was I had to be read in. Reading in is a brief and an SCIF with agency and intel guys. My NDAs don't expire until I die. I have no idea what I understood what most of that meant, but again, the acronyms and whatnot, or the initialism, I didn't. In my opinion, to the non-Jew, Deuteronomy is failure. Lots of laws don't apply to us Gentiles. We can get into the religious debate with various stuff in the Bible, fervently.
I eat shellfish all the time.
Well, then we got this right here. So this is, of course, the story of the Kandahar Giant that we all went over already. They go to this cave, fight the giant. Helicopter takes it over. What does the Kandahar Giant look like? Eyewitness accounts describe the giant as having strikingly unusual features, the strangest of which were its enormous head, 6 figures on each hand, multiple rows of teeth, and deep-set menacing eyes. Some versions of the legend claim the creature moved incredibly fast despite its massive size. But then we've got this here. The giant at Kandahar is not the only missing giant story based on local folklore. The Pietists and Native American tribe that lived in Nevada tell the story of cave-dwelling, red-haired band of cannibalistic giants called the Siteka. In retaliation to several attacks on their people, the Pietists cornered the giants in Lovelock Cave and exterminated them once and for all. Early 20th century archaeologists found several large mummified remains and artifacts, including a 15-inch sandal. However, no evidence remains to corroborate the claims of a giant over 8.5 feet. So I thought, well, that's a very interesting story. So I went to ancientorigins.net to look into this. Now, I don't know the validity of ancientorigins.net. Also, what up? How you doing, Niat? Appreciate you showing up. What up, my Nephilim? Now, I don't know the validity of ancientorigins.net, but it has a .net at the end, so it's got to be somewhat faithful, right? And the Pietists and Native... Let's go ahead and zoom this in a bit for those of you guys so you can see it better.
Before we get into it, hold on. What did
Go for it.
C3 Old Man Cat said? Secret compartmentalized information. SCIF is a secure room where no signals, voices leave the room. Most are surrounded by a Faraday cage.
Interesting.
All right.
Again, I mean, what's crazy? Like, it'd be so easy. We can so easily dismiss Old Man Cat as feeding into what we do on this show and letting our imaginations run wild. But by the same token, we also know that the government, all governments and all military operations do have shit like this and do shit like this. Again, I mean, I've talked about how my grandfather was, he was special forces. He went to, Area 51. He's got stuff that he is like, to this day, not allowed to talk about. He can be charged with treason. So I'm not inclined to disbelieve anything the cat is saying. Like, I mean, I maybe call me gullible, but based on, just corroborating that with some of the stuff my grandfather has told me and what he's told me that he's not about what he's not allowed to tell me, the things he won't even tell me, his own grandson, would, imply that I believe what Kat says implicitly. Faraday cage designed to block RF radiation. Yeah. Faraday cage is again, it stop EMPs, radiation, the whole nine. Yeah, it's you can make a Faraday cage out of your microwave, from what I hear. I don't know how to do it. I'm not well versed and whatnot, but yeah. So the Pietis, a Native American tribe to indigenous parts of Nevada, have an oral tradition they told early white settlers about an area of the area about a race of red-haired white giants or barbarians that their ancestors referred to as the Sitaka. The story was written down in 1882 by Sarah Winnemucca Hopkins, daughter of Piute Indian chief of a Piute Indian chief, in her book Life Among the Pieutes: The Wrongs and Claims. So we have now located in Nevada, which is very far from Afghanistan, another story about red-haired giants. That seems to be too much for coincidence, in my opinion. What are the odds?
No, they did have something though, that in Afghanistan there's like a tradition where certain men for certain occasions would dye their hair red. So I don't know if that goes into it too, but like we did with ancient astronaut theory, you're going to tell me halfway across the globe you have extremely similar sightings where, we're just like, and red hair is very distinctive, right? That's they felt the need to note that every single time. That's one of the things that I talk about where, there was like, there seems to be some correlation in any single type of story like this,
right? Especially amongst, like, here we got Native Americans who I don't know about you guys, but as somebody who lived on the Cherokee Nation, is very very much involved in Native American culture. I've never seen a redhead Indian. I haven't. No, you don't see a whole lot of, like, the old Hollywood movies hiring Indians. You got one of them that's a fucking ginger. I was United States Air Force, 22 years command and control. I worked directly for the commanding general and reported at higher headquarters. When I worked with SOCOM, I need somebody to inform me what SOCOM means. I've heard the term, but I don't know what the acronym is. Went directly to Joint Chiefs and CINC. Yeah, I'm Commander in Chief. Okay, I thought CINC might be Commander in Chief, President, but I wasn't sure. Hey, Nia coming in with a $7.99 super sticker. What is the sticker? Give me one moment here to take a look. Where is? Oh, we got a homeboy just giving us the scream, the ancient art scream. Just said incredible. Thank you so much, Nia, man. You didn't need to, you did. Again, truly appreciated. Let's give you your clip here.
Yeah.
Okay, SOCOM, Special Operations Command. Thank you.
Yep. And then Tomby also in the chat is he was a
oh yeah. Tomby is ex-military. Actually, we had him on
got some stories, man.
Yeah, we had Tomby on for our Veterans Day show. Yeah, Tomby, again, mad shout out to you. Thank you for your service as well, and welcome to America. Hey, Kuma Productions Music Group, how you doing, brother? So back to this. These giants were described as being vicious, unfriendly, and cannibalistic. In the story, the Pietis speak of a great battle that took place, which led to their extermination as site known today as Lovelock Cave. During the early part of the 20th century, archaeologists found thousands of artifacts inside this cave, leading to a lengthy excavation of the site speculation that the Piety legend was real. So there's at least a period of time where this legend of giants was taken seriously. Let's see. Give me one moment. I want to scroll down to where. Excuse me. Excuse me. My bad. Thank you. Okay. So, Lovelock Cave in Nevada. Lovelock Cave, also known as Bat Cave, Horseshoe Cave, Sunset Guano Cave, and Indian Cave, is located 20 miles south of modern-day Lovelock, Nevada. It's a very old cave that predates humans on the continent and prehistoric times underneath Lake Lahontan. Now, pay attention to how old this cave is and how long it's been around, because it's going to be very interesting for something that cannot be argued. Like this is real history, and we're about to see some very interesting history out here. In 1886, a mining engineer from Lovelock named John T. Reed was told of the legend by local Indians, who took him to the site to prove it existed. Reed was unsuccessful in getting an archaeological dig started immediately, but two miners, James Hart and David Pugh, realized the value of guano as an ingredient of gunpowder and created a company to start digging it out in 1911. They stripped a layer of guano from the cave, approximately 3 to 6 feet deep, using a pick and shovel with little regard to the artifacts, and shipped some 250 tons of it to the Hawaiian Fertilizer Company in San Francisco. The archaeological explorations of Lovelock Cave. Alfred Kroeber, founded the University of California Anthropology Department, was contacted by Hart and Pugh when they reported findings of prehistoric artifacts. This spurred the first archaeological dig of Lovelock in 1912, led by L.L. Loud, also the University of California. A second dig took place in 1924 after finishing the excavations. Loud collaborated on a report that was published in 1929. What Loud found was nothing short of amazing. Approximately 100,000 archaeological specimens were uncovered, including tools, bones, baskets, and weapons. Now, mind you, this is supposedly the cave that the Native Americans chased these giants into. According to the report, 60 average height mummies were unearthed, duck decoys, amongst the oldest known in the world with feathers still attached, and a sandal over 15 inches long were excavated.
Damn.
Again, these are real excavations. This isn't part of the conspiracy theory. Like, they literally found a 15-inch fucking sandal.
Mm-hmm.
That's massive.
And notable, people say this all the time. People were not getting smaller. People, people were not getting bigger. People were smaller back then. So a 15-inch sandal is absurd.
Yeah, like that's like, I don't know, is that bigger than, let's see, hold on. Google, how big are Shaq's feet? Oh man, I don't.
He wears a 16.
He wears a size 22 in shoe size. I don't know how big that is. I don't know how many inches that would be, but that's okay. That's 15 inches. Sorry, 23. A size 23 shoe would be 15 inches, according to what I'm reading here. So these things had feet bigger than Shaquille fucking O'Neal. We got Robert Wallow. DM me that information, and we can potentially do it on a follow-up episode. Because I'm not sure how it relates to this, so you'll have to bear with me. I can't just doing research mid-show. A donut-shaped stone with 365 notches carved along the outside of 52 corresponding notches inside was found, which some scientists believe is a calendar. Interestingly, radiocarbon dating on the follow-up visits found vegetable material dating back to 2030 BC, a human femur dating 1450 BC, and human muscle tissue dating 1420 BC. Basketry dating to 1218 BC. So we're talking, guys, BC, before Christ. These are ancient Egypt timelines, and we're finding human relics and actual remains in a cave in Nevada.
Yeah, an unknown. I just looked it up. Robert Wallow. You guys have seen him. He's the tallest man ever recorded. You always see him in Ripley's Believe It or Not. I knew the name sounded familiar. That's why I looked it up. Yeah, that the dates on that are insane. Like that's that's absurd, actually.
I thought all the Nephilims, the Nephilims was hapless, got murked. Well, that's what we're here to talk about today. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Or is the Kandahar Giant a long descendant of the Nephilim? So we'll be getting further into that. There were other races besides Homo sapiens back then. It was assumed Neanderthals were gigantic compared to humans. Yes, that is true. There are, to be fair, that is a widely looked down upon theory. However, big history, big archaeology, they don't want to rewrite the history books. They don't want what we thought for the last hundreds of years discredited. They'll lose their grant funding, things to that effect. So I know what you're referring to, and it's an interesting theory that I think does hold more water than big archaeology wants us to believe. But yes, there are theories out there that Neanderthals were far larger than Homo sapiens. What's impressive is these humans grew this big with a hunter-gatherer diet. Modern humans eating well can have some freaks like Shaq, but we're eating, but you're eating tubular roots and deer meat. Always get confused with the dates, especially before BC. Is it possible the redhead giants are from precursor race that built all the pyramids? I mean, at this point, I don't know. Native American Slender Man.
Been a hell of a lot easier for them.
Yeah, no kidding. The flood was the civilized world. The flood was the civilized world at the time. The Fertile Crescent, not the entire planet. No. I mean, the flood. If we're talking about the Younger Dryas era, the flood would have been damn near worldwide. Because of the. If we were going with giant impact theory, a damn near instant melting of large parts of the poles. It wouldn't have just been the Fertile Crescent. Yeah, again, I mean, there's a lot that goes into the giant impact theory and the ideas of the Younger Dryas flood. There's a reason flood myths existed in China, and there's flood myths in Native American culture, and there's flood myths. They're literally the world over for people that had no contact with one another thousands upon thousands of years ago. So yeah, no, I would disagree with that. Ready for something else that'll make you think? Local males in Afghanistan prefer to color their beards. Wait for it, red. When they turn gray or white. Well, and that's the same we were talking about earlier. There's actually also rituals where men would dye their body hair and their beards red, and they would dye the goats red, and they would take the goats out for something, and the men would return without the goats. So possible offerings to Kandahar Giant or other creatures.
What I was thinking.
Yeah, that's what I think as well. Archaeologists concluded from this the human occupation of the Lovelock cave by this culture started in 1500 BC. Today's anthropologists call people who live in that area the Lovelock culture, with the period lasting some 3,000 years. Many archaeologists believe the Lovelock culture was replaced by Northern Pietas, so that these Native American tribes, effectively did in fact take this cave, take this people over. There's some debate as to the veracity of the claims made regarding the Lovelock giants. During the initial excavations, there are reports of mummified remains being found of two red-haired giants. One was a female, 6.5 feet, and the other a male, over 8 feet. However, no such evidence remains. Now, do you believe that if we found the remains of giants in these caves back in the 1920s, give or take, that information would have been made public?
Nah, not really.
Yeah, even back then, our government was lying to us about everything.
Yeah, or they did. They tried to make it public, and it's like when we first started exhibiting, dinosaur fossils. That everyone tried to prove it as a hoax. Maybe somebody did, and it just got lost in the shuffle because no one wanted to believe it.
I'm wondering if the government has somewhere stashed away fucking mummified giant remains. And maybe
there's huge theories on that. We can get to that at the end, because like I've heard, we're still kind of at the top of the iceberg here. I was like, when we get down to there's some stuff that I heard today where there's government labs, things like that, that are trying to create like Nephilim hybrid soldiers and things like that too. So,
well, it's confirmed that China is doing that, trying to make giant super soldiers. They've been working on it since at least 2016. Like that's not even a conspiracy theory. Like we know for a fact that China has been trying to genetically engineer giant super soldiers.
Well, you can't blame
they didn't clone a direwolf into existence. Yeah, didn't they clone a direwolf into existence the other month? Yes, they did. I mean, there's some caveats to that. It's really only like 1/16 direwolf, but even so, yes, they did. Don't the Bosque also have a high percentage of redheads amongst them? And don't they have unique DNA? Been a while since I read, but I'm not familiar with that, so I would have to know.
Okay, the Bosque is like this strange like mountain combination of like Spaniards and French. They have their own kind of like culture because like they live in this mountain town. It's like this amalgam of the two cultures, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, the 8 feet though doesn't seem too crazy. I mean, hold on. You say 8 feet doesn't seem too crazy. However, let's just Google average male height 1500 BC. Average male height in 1500 BC was 5'6". It was shorter than me. Like average male height was 5'6". For a homie to get up to 8 foot, that's just a foot and a half shy of double the average male height of that time period. So I get what you're saying, Jake, but that's a lot. I feel like the 1920s governments weren't as repressive and all-encompassing. If giant remains are found, people have tried to hold exhibitions showing them off. Now, there are people that tried doing that in other locations in the U.S. where supposedly giant bones and giant remains were found.
Thanks, Nia. Yes, that's what I was getting at. Yep, 100%.
Robert Wood, however you say that fucking name, stood 8 feet 9 inches. And again, I mean, like, could it be genetic mutation? Absolutely. However, we're talking that woman was 6.5 feet tall. So let's do average female height in 1500 BC.
I believe it's a malfunction in the pituitary gland.
Yeah, 5'2". So again, she's 1.5 feet taller than the average female height. And to find two of those, and mummified around the same time. Again, 15-inch sandals, and then in the Sarah Winnemucca Hopkins book, A Life Among the Piets, The Wrongs and the Claims, she does not mention giants, but she does refer to so-called barbarians. Skeptics claim that chemical staining by earth after burial is likely the reason why mummified remains have a red hair instead of black, like most Indians in the area. A study done at the University of Nevada indicates that giants are about 6 feet and not up to 8 feet tall. As had been claimed. To others, the uncovering of the 15-inch sandals at Lovelock Cave is proof enough that the PSA, however you say that, tale is real. An article published in the Nevada Review Minor in 1931 in February and June of that same year, it was reported that 2 very large skeletons were found in Humboldt Dry Lake Bed near Lovelock, Nevada. One of the Lovelock skeletons was reported to have measured 8.5 feet tall, and latter was described as having been wrapped in a gum-covered fabric similar to Egyptian mummies. The other, supposedly 10 feet tall. So that's, again, these are all just reports, and we've got literally no, yes, Jesus, by today's standards, Jesus would be a midget. I'm going to go eat my salad, stream hypnotic. Hey, thanks so much. Thanks a million, Cad. You have a good rest of the day, brother. I enjoyed you being here. Thank you for all the information.
Thank you.
Some other evidence of the Lovelock Giants includes a set of images showing a handprint more than double the size of a normal man's hand imprinted on a stone boulder in the cave, which was released by Bigfoot investigators M.K. Davis and Don Monroe in 2013, but the footage is unavailable.
Because it's Bigfoot.
So, what?
Because they're Bigfoot experts.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
They always lose their footage, apparently.
So, yeah, that's the information on the Lovelock Caves, the red-headed giants of North America. Again, compare that to what we see with what's going on in the Kandahar Giant story. I don't know. What are we thinking? I mean, to me, this is adding more and more credibility to this. And we still don't have really information on whether there's Nephilim blood there, whether this has anything to do with Nephilim. But I'm definitely seeing more validity of the idea of giants. What about you?
Like I said, I completely buy into this one. How's the poll doing?
Oh, so I closed the poll about whether people believed it or not a little while ago, and then we'll do and it was, let me see if I can bring it back up. Give me one moment here. Also, Soul Assassin, we covered that a little bit tangentially on a different episode. That one will be getting its own episode. The Egyptian temples in the Grand Canyon will be getting a dedicated episode. We've touched on it briefly because it connected to something else we were talking about in a different episode. Give me one moment.
Look at our chat, man. They're on top of it.
No kidding. You'll love to see it. Why can I not zoom out? There we go. All right, let's see. What was the poll looking like? I don't know if it's going to let me go back that far, but most of the polls seemed like it was most people, it was like 60% that they did exist at one point, but no longer exist now. And then it was like a 20-20 split between yes and no.
Okay.
As a basis, I'm religious, so I believe they existed. I think some may still exist, but the animalistic humanoid types like Bigfoot or Wendigo. Wendigo is something completely different. Bigfoot probably something completely different as well. I mean, I'm a religious man myself. I don't think that Wendigos, giants, Bigfoot, those are all, at least to me, seemingly very different things. Dan Genie sounds like you're trying to summon a tranny genie. All right, so do you have anything you want to do? Because I've got more stuff to pull up, but by all means, you said you covered some stuff. You had some ideas about stuff. So anything you want to touch on before we move on to more tabs and stuff that I've got?
No. It sounds like I said, mostly I couldn't find as many articles as I did videos, and it sounds like we watched a lot of the same ones today.
So we got this here, which are other supposed accounts of Afghan giants that are not the giant of Kandahar. Different regions, things like that. Giants are a story tale, myth, and legend. Oh, hold on a sec. This is. Sorry, here's the first one. So, the Giant of Kunar. This is a supposedly true first-hand account. Again, take this with a grain of salt. We'll see what we have to say. I was deployed as an infantry team leader with the Army in the Kunar province of Afghanistan from 2008 to 2009. One night, we set in an observation patrol to overlook a village that we suspected IEDs were coming out of due to a successful IED recovery a few weeks prior. My lieutenant gave me a new thermal imaging system called a Recon 3. None of us were familiar with, and told me to figure out what I can and pass on the information to the other team leaders. I started messing with Recon 3 to see its capabilities, and I was surprised at the clarity of the zoom on it. I spent most of my time messing with different functionalities and watching the village. Now, again, any military men in here, Tommy, if you're still here, Cat, if for whatever reason, let me know the validity of these terms and whatnot. I started to look across the valley to see what I could see. What led me along the spur we were set in on, and I saw a very large heat signature at the top of one of the false peaks. I did everything I could to get as clear of image as I could, suspecting there was a group of Taliban held together around a light, as they tend to do in the mountains. All of a sudden, the heat signature stood up as one being. The trees in that area grew up to about 10 to 12 feet tall, and this thing was at least as tall, if not taller, than the trees that surround it. It started taking steps parallel to my position and was covering ground quickly with ease. Its stride was slow and relaxed, yet it moved with incredible speed. That led me to believe this creature was gigantic. It very quickly traversed the landscape. I lost sight of it along a neighboring spur. I did not believe what I saw initially, assuming I had imagined it. I'd never seen anything like that in my life. I didn't tell many people about it while I was in, and even when I got out, I kept it to myself, thinking there was no way I saw what I saw. But then in 2010, I listened to a story on Coast to Coast, specifically the story of the Giant of Kandahar. Now we're going to get into the Coast to Coast story, which is how this story initially broke. I mean, we're saving that for a reason. That made all the memories of my time to service come flooding back and made me consider things I saw during that deployment. For instance, the creature was described as having fiery orange hair and reminded me of tradition the locals in the area my sighting would do. They would dye their hair bright orange color and would even dye their goats the same color. They never gave an explanation why. It seemed like it was every once in a while they would do this, and then all of a sudden those orange-dyed goats would be gone, and the locals' hair would no longer be dyed orange. I assumed maybe it was a cultural thing I didn't understand, but now it makes me wonder if it was some kind of gesture to the creature, Nephilim, or if the goats were sacrificed to it. So that's what you and I were talking about earlier.
Yep.
I'm a Christian. The Bible briefly discusses the men of renown, aka the Nephilim. I think that's what I saw. A member of an ancient race of giants that descended from fallen angels. Or it could be something like Sasquatch. I'm not sure.
This also kind of reminds me of something, because there's another thing that I read. Some people think that Nephilim had blue skin.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. Bluish gray skin. Yeah.
Are you a fan of Adventure Time?
Are you about to make a reference to that wizard guy that lives in the mountain?
No.
Okay, gotcha. I've only seen like handfuls of Adventure Time, so I wouldn't consider myself a fan. No, but I don't.
So
have
there's a character called Billy, and he's like Finn and Jake's like hero. He was like their big hero archetype. He's a big blue skin like humanoid he's got to be like 8 or 9 feet tall with red hair, and he has a theme song, and who's the greatest warrior ever, a hero of renown. So I think
damn,
the creators of Adventure Time,
like, there's a Nephilim in Adventure Time. That's wild.
That just popped into my head.
That's awesome. Giants on the feed. I was a sensor operator on the Reaper, heading up to work, tasking in the northern parts of the country, scanning around, do my thing, looking at stuff. There's small villages up high in the central mountains that I've scanned probably a dozen times. Found a super small mud hut, which is where I saw the giants. They were 3-ish, maybe even 4 meters tall. There's a ruler tool that tells you how wide your crosshair is, and the people were as tall as the crosshair was wide. The few mud huts were extremely rudimentary, like just a mound with some holes for a door and windows. They didn't do anything crazy, just normal people things, tending fires and other chores. I wish I could say they did something exciting, really just mobbed around their small clearing. There were a few goats tied up in a fire that one person was tending. Hard to tell the details, but they seemed to wear rugged clothing. I would guess similar to Afghan traditional from how they moved, but they seemed heavily cloaked. The only interesting thing was the size. The goats were like cats next to them. This was an all mid-wave IR at night, so they showed up as black humanoid heat signatures. I wish I could have used our daytime camera. I was wondering if they had red hair, lol. I only monitored them for like 10 minutes before we were too far away to see. Anonymous Air Force Reaper operator. So, again, take these with a grain of salt. Giant of Man. I was an FMV analyst from 2012 to 2018. We were doing pre-op soak northeast of Korangal, getting patterns of life on damn near every warm body. We saw some dudes around fire, which is completely normal, but watched to see if we could ID any weapons. After about 20 minutes, we thought there were two dudes huddled together under a blanket stood up. I mean, this guy made the rest of the dudes look like children in terms of height. He stood up and walked over to a mud hut that had to bend. They had to bend way over to get in. We were IR, so I couldn't say infrared, so I couldn't say if he was red haired or not. But I do know he was a big motherfucker, at least 8 to 9 feet. And then we got the Giant of, and that's an anonymous United States Air Force airman, Giant of Urzagon. I was a lieutenant in the Australian Army. Hey, these are your people, Niat. These are your people. I was a lieutenant in the Australian Army at the time and deployed to the Urzagon province. I was on what? Pickwit? What you Yanks would call security or sentry? All right. In my LAV in the early hours of the morning, was scanning across the valley with the thermal imager looking for threats, and I saw a large human-like figure that looked different from normal because it didn't have the usual clothes the Afghans would wear. It looked like a person, but lankier. Not much detail, though, the TI and due to the distance. I walked behind a few compounds. I could see it from the chest armpits up. I laced the compound walls to confirm distance a few times because I knew I would get a good return off the walls. I thought it was around 500 to 600 meters away. When I did a more detailed scan, it was also unusual to see individual people out at that time of night. I realized it was further away, so I used the LRF to get in the range and was shot to see it was 1,800 meters away. It wasn't in a hurry, and I followed it for about 5 minutes before it went out of my field of view. Just looked like it was walking. Wasn't in a hurry at all, but was aware of what was happening around it. Kept looking around, especially near the compounds. No idea what it was, but it would have been at least 12 feet tall. I don't know of anyone who saw anything like that. Never told anyone about it, but it stayed with me over all these years. And that is the last personal account. So we've got 4 different supposed giant accounts that are not even in the Kandahar region.
Yeah, there was another one that I came across where so apparently they it seemed to be similar to, you know, just like all these, they're in the Middle East, and when they were getting ready to go into this cave, the guy running the show basically said, because from what the guy said is, soldiers are trained to have aim like chest length, right? Like, have it here or to head. And he was telling guys, we're going to want to have our guns at a higher than head, higher than you normally. They're like, why are we carrying our guns like this? And then obviously when you see a 9, 10, 15 foot tall thing, you're like, oh, okay, that's because we're shooting at a giant. But yeah, I can't remember which story that was. It could have been any one of those. I'll try and find. You know what? I think it was in the video that I sent you this morning where I had like a bunch of different.
Gotcha.
Accounts.
I guess about pulling that up 100%. Stony Kenobi says, did you send it to me in text or DM? Do you know?
I can't remember. It was 7:30 in the morning.
All right. Well, if you can go to the private chat when you pulled up. Stony Kenobi says that's a lot of people the same exact story, and they also didn't all write the same. I don't know if you picked up on that. Some of them use phrases like "lull." Some were putting stuff in parentheses, using terms like "Yanks," the Australian guy. But it's not as if it was the same person writing over and over, because like they all had. Now, of course, a good writer can write in multiple different styles. It could be the same person writing all 4 accounts in different styles. But yes, those are all remarkably similar stories, despite supposed to being different people, different portions of Afghanistan, things like that. And then Jake Martin says the geography of these sightings can't be incidental. Again, all very similar geography. I agree completely. I recall that detail, Sammy, maybe a creepypasta variant of the Kandahar story. How many coincidences make it not a coincidence anymore? That's an excellent question now, isn't it? I mean, at what point does something become like, these can't be a coincidence? We're seeing the same thing over and over. I mean, I understand what you mean completely. So we'll go ahead and talk about the last thing that I have on the docket. And then again, if Sammy sends me the video or if we got other stuff to talk about, Steve Quayle. Now, Steve Quayle was the man that broke the original Kandahar story. So let's talk about this guy for a moment.
Coast to coast.
Well, Yeah. So he broke the story on Coast to Coast. Here are some of Steve Quayle's accolades. I'm going to need to zoom this out a little bit. Okay. So this is about the best visits you guys are going to get. Hopefully you can see it all fine. Stated in 1997, the following year would bring unprecedented temperatures approaching 130. In June 1998, India hit 129. These are a bunch of So Steve Quayle is a Alex Jones style reporter. These are a list of the things that he predicted and said, and then whether or not they came true. Declared 1 year prior to the microburst that touched down in Root National Forest near Steamboat Springs, Colorado, that we would see winds approaching 350 miles an hour. Scientists said wind speeds that magnitude were not possible. 200-year-old trees over a 30-mile stretch snapped like matches. Scientists estimated the jet stream was forced down for a split second, wreaking devastation equaled only in the Tunguska meteor strike. By the way, we don't even know the Tunguska meteor strike was a meteor strike. There's that also warrants its own entire episode, the Tunguska event. Just throwing that out there. Quayle was the first to detail the public Gabriel Fist, an asteroid coming toward Earth out of Pegasus and on near collision course with Earth, and how the world's brightest scientists met monthly to discuss their plans when to inform the American people. This event has them quaking in their boots. Quayle was one of the first radio talk show guests to describe the introduction of hoof and mouth disease into Taiwan, which resulted in the total destruction of their hog industry. Quayle continued to sound the alarm concerning China's theft of nuclear secrets from the U.S. by interviewing Sam Cohen, inventor of the neutron bomb. He was the first to go public with red mercury, a transmutated element that makes softball-sized neuron weapons feasible. Quayle also spelled out in great detail prior to the Russian General Alexander Lebed's statements confirming that more than 100 suitcase nuclear weapons were missing. At inception, Quayle warned about the spread of a new waterborne pathogen and mutations occurring in Earth's oceans due to excreted pharmaceuticals from human waste. Quayle detailed the remarkable accuracy the possession of weapons of mass destruction in Libya, Iran, Iraq, North Korea, Syria, and Cuba possesses. Quayle stated several years the U.S. would eventually have to occupy Saudi Arabia since they joined the anti-U.S. Confederation of Arab Countries. In 1999, Quayle stated that new terrorist crusade would begin on that radical Islam would launch the world into World War III. Kind of missed the mark on that one. Steve is uncannily accurate in his warnings concerning hybrid and genetically engineered viruses and the danger they pose to humans. Now, this is all well and good. Dude seems like he's kind of hitting the nail on the head with a lot of this shit, right?
Yeah.
Well, this is stevequayle.com. This is their own website.
Oh, boy.
So, like, dude is his own biggest hype man. I'm just saying, dude is his own biggest hype man. And that's an excellent question. Is he a controlled leaker? That's a good question as well. Homie claims that, again, he's an anti-establishment, Alex Jones type. He's trying to break the news. He was on Art Bell, Coast to Coast AM multiple times. This is the guy that broke the Kandahar Giant story on Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell. But again, if you go to his website, which are on, but if you go to the main page of his website, Renaissance Precious Metals, order precious metals with Steve Quayle. There's a number. New update weekly. Click to enter. Survival blog. Support Steve Quayle's work. Donate to PayPal. Click here. I mean, this website literally looks like something out of 1999.
Yeah, and also it's like stuff you would see in the back of like a National Enquirer or you know, like it's
this is the sort of stuff that keeps me being skeptical. Like we've gone through all this, like, oh, this could be real, this could be something that people aren't up on or informed upon. But then we get to the website of the guy that's breaking these stories. And it looks like exactly an ad from, again, a National Enquirer book or a comic book. I was thinking about the Red Beards thing, the Paiute tribe in Nevada have. Oh, it must have been a bit late, Jake, or maybe you stepped away or something. Because, we actually covered that pretty in depth. But, you see that this is the guy that broke all that news, and now you see his website. And, I mean, again, it's just like the other guy, the L.A. Marzulli guy. Like, your entire website is basically give me money.
Yeah.
Does it make you any more skeptical?
Well, of him, of course. But out of all the, like different accounts, no. But hold on, they got that big giant in the background, on the top corner to enter.
Yep, let's
All right, and then
Gen 6 Giants. I give command, I bring them. Giants are coming to fulfill my wrath, rejoicing at the same time and insulting. Isaiah 13:13.
oh yeah, but hold on.
Page on the side. Okay. What was that?
Here. That's Billy from Adventure Time.
Oh, okay.
I did. Yeah, but just for fun, that's Billy from Adventure Time. So,
gotcha. Yeah. I mean, that's looks like what we were talking about to me. That's a pretty interesting. Selling precious metals. Wouldn't he keep that for himself rather than sell? I mean, it depends on how much the guy has. I don't know what his net worth is or anything. Funky little Arizona town is hailed as the new Roswell after strange UFO sightings. That's from just a few days ago. Arizona town.
Yeah, but the videos in the tinfoil haters.
What?
The videos in the tinfoil haters.
Oh, perfect. So yeah, this is the type of guy we're talking about. So oh, he's on that giant energy. Why is the giant just like Leon doing an Avatar cosplay? All right, let me pull up the video that you're referring to. Give me one moment. There we go. Shocking stories from drone operators.
Actually, I think a lot of the ones we read are mentioned in this.
Yeah. We won't cover this whole video because it's 45 minutes, but let's go ahead and play and see what some of these are like. All right. It is muted.
It's known throughout recorded history. There aren't many that hold the proud distinction of having never been conquered or colonized by invading forces. Afghanistan is one of these select few countries. Alexander the Great, the Persians, the Mongols, the British Empire, and the recent hegemon of the Soviet Union have all attempted to subdue this Middle Eastern nation. All have failed, thus cementing Afghanistan's place in history as the graveyard of empires. But what is the secret behind the country's enduring resistance against the invading forces of foreign, often more powerful armies? Many strategists will cite the Afghan terrain as being the key to its success, namely its vast mountain ranges. Their vast network of uncharted footpaths, valleys, overlooks, and cave systems have proven effective in concealing even entire armies from the eyes of their enemies. In more recent years, the British, Australian, Canadian, and American troops tasked with rooting out insurgents from within this imposing landscape have no less faced an overwhelming task. There are some among these men, however, who found the task all the more unnerving.
So this is even before the Giants. Like Afghanistan just uniquely geographically viable for fending off assailants. Gotta make that paper somehow, especially if his reputation is suffered due to governments trying to discredit him. Shouldn't be mad about the hustle. I'm not mad about it. I'm 100% pure capitalist. What I am though is
that Quan.
Yeah, I am skeptical of the hustle. Again, someone mentioned earlier, I think it was Azay Bay, about him being controlled leaker, things like that. It does make it harder to swallow whether or not at least what he reports on is real. But yes, I understand what you mean. Yeah. If you're talking about our channel, I completely agree. Make sure to like and sub. If you mean who are watching, agree as well. It's my first time seeing their stuff, but like
exploring these mountains on foot, flying unmanned aerial vehicles overhead, and interviewing local villagers, these men realized that the mountains of Afghanistan harbor far more than rebel insurgents. They describe witnessing creatures that have long been believed to be extinct, if not complete myths. This is the Smoke Pit, and these are true stories from military servicemen of giants.
That's true.
In
Alex Jones does the
Afghanistan.
same thing. That is true.
You want to know what my theory? Sorry. You want to know what my theory is as to why the Giants remain living in secluded areas? It's because you can't get spam calls and texts in the mountains of Afghanistan. Why is it that every time my phone rings now, instead of actually answering it, I start Googling the number to see who's calling me? And oh, look, I've got another text message. What's this? An undelivered package notification sent from a sketchy email.
Sorry,
I better click on this super legit looking link to confirm my mailing it.
All right, there we go. Sorry, put up a new poll in the chat, guys. Go ahead.
What feeling?
I was enjoying that.
Being watched.
Sorry, bud.
Yeah. I was just about to say the same thing. Just keep your eyes peeled.
In the aftermath of the September 11th terrorist attacks, the United States military launched Operation Enduring Freedom, which began in October of 2001. Their goal was the dismantling of the Taliban regime that was harboring al-Qaeda terrorists.
Oh, Jay Martin says, you know how we have all that junk DNA knocking around the old double helix? Maybe they're deactivated, what's that word? Introns for gigantism, and we've evolved out of it through selective breeding and a time of strife. Yeah, so that's an interesting theory. For what Jake is talking about, if you guys are unfamiliar, we do have it's like incredible. Like I think it's something like 30 or 40%, like something stupid high amounts of DNA that are untraceable. They're not. It's traced to no known prior Earth-dwelling species. Now, does that mean we interbred with aliens or giants, or maybe just something that hasn't been discovered yet? I mean, who knows how far back it goes in the genetic code? But yeah, that is a thing, 100%.
But yeah, and also too, if you look at like evolution kind of things don't usually evolve to get bigger. You know, they usually kind of refine, they streamline. So to think that we started out bigger and then evolved smaller makes a lot more sense than, you know, the opposite.
Hook says Spooky Squad raid. I assume that means Nadia. Thought Nadia was raiding Sons of Shadows podcast. Well, Nadia, if this was a raid from you, thank you so much. You didn't need to. Truly appreciate it. I guess that means depending on how long we go, we'll raid Sons of Shadows, or we'll raid whoever's live, because I don't know when Sons of Shadows go live. But yeah, we'll definitely figure that out when it comes. I'm still a dirty unbeliever. I'm with Molly on this one. Hey, fair enough. It is not our job to make you guys believe. We're just presenting what we find to be interesting, and you guys come to conclusions of your own. We'll tell you what we believe individually at the end. So we'll let this story play out, and then we'll probably call it.
Believed to be responsible for the attacks. This military...
Actually, this first story is literally the Giant of Kandahar. So let's see if we can find a different one. The Reaper, Giant of Korg. Oh, wait. All these stories are the ones we covered, except there's one at the end here. Let's do this one then.
Chechen fighters were giants. As if all these stories were not enough, just recently in late 2023, a journalist named Mike from Atlas News reached out to me to do an interview. When we finally spoke, I realized that he is also an Army combat veteran who served in both Iraq and Afghanistan. We had a long talk about all manner of the strange and unexplained with regard to military operations, bases, training grounds, religious texts, and so on. And about halfway through the conversation, we landed on the subject of cryptids, and Mike was quick to express his disbelief in many of these entities.
That's a good sign.
But then he offhandedly told me about one unexplained experience that he had while patrolling in Afghanistan. In summary, he was on patrol near the eastern Afghan border with Pakistan, a region not far from where many of these aforementioned giants were seen. His unit's mission was what he directly referred to as HUMANT, or Human Intelligence Gathering, interviewing the local village leaders and trying to wean any intel they could give him about Taliban insurgents moving through the area. But during a conversation with one man, his interpreter explained that the man was trying to tell them to avoid going into the nearby mountains
Catch you later,
because
EB.
there was a
Thank you,
group of
brother.
individuals living there that most of the villagers tried to avoid. Individuals, he said, that had pale skin, a habit of harassing the locals while they were feeding their goats in the highlands, and even throwing large rocks at them. Through his interpreter, and then showing his own rifle and the rifles of the men around him, Mike then asked if these pale-skinned individuals carried any kind of rifles or other weapons, and whether they were Taliban.
He was like, no, they're like you guys, like white, but they wear like clothes like us. In fact, they don't have like plate carriers. But I just remember the dude was like, yeah, they have like beards and they're like heavy set, and they're super tall like you guys. And so I didn't really put it down until later, and I asked about it. I was like, hey, did we get that base figured out? And they're like, yeah, it's nothing. Don't worry about it. But it was like, this dude literally just told us the story of his life. I don't know, maybe it's a nomadic tally base, but it was just one of those weird things where it was like, why don't you tell us where these people live? And then years later, somebody talked about Afghan giants, and I was like, whatever. And then I thought about it, and I was like, well, the description matches up, and the kind of remote location matches up. And so after I discovered all this stuff, I'm looking back, and I'm like, I don't know. I chalk it up to it being just foreign fighters, Syrians, Chechens, or something, but that is sort of weird.
With the Kandahar Giant being possibly the only direct confrontation between soldiers and a remnant species of giant men, at least in Afghanistan, it's understandable why this would appear nothing more than a modern-day spin on the David and Goliath story. But the fact there are other witnesses, all of whom relay grounded testimony, devoid of any theatrics, certainly this must lend some credibility to the continued existence of these creatures.
I like he says devoid of any theatrics, because he's right. Aside from the Kandahar Giant story, all the others just then being like, yeah, we saw some shit on infrared, like way off in the mountains that is out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
Like none of it had Hollywood written all over it, like the Kandahar Giant story.
No.
Even if the Kandahar story has been a bit embellished over the years. In any case, until further evidence finally surfaces which dispels our lingering unbelief, we are at least left to wonder. But these military men appear certain of what they saw. And as they say in the world, there is no smoke without fire.
Unless it's Bigfoot.
Unless it's Bigfoot. Yeah, literally, I was scrolling through the timestamps on that, and every single one of those encounters were the ones that we read. Was wild. But that last one was new. And I like that last one because, again, they didn't even see anything. There's interviewing some locals, and locals mention stuff that just lines up with everything else. So I don't know. It's interesting. So let's take this back to the Kandahar Giant to round this out, specifically because that's supposedly the specimen that was actually killed, captured, and taken away by the U.S. government and put in supposedly some sort of Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark style warehouse at the end, or some sort of underground government facility, Dulce base, whatever you want to call it. Do you think the Kandahar Giant story is true?
Yeah, I believe it.
You do? All right. Why is that?
I do. It just feels plausible. Just from everything that I've heard from the story, just from other accounts, just because this was like the first one that happened. It's been backed up by similar stories. There's different cultures that have their own story, that, where there's similarities, yeah, I just, whether it was a Nephilim or a Rephilim or, just a really big dude, I think that these soldiers were happened upon a creature, whether it was displaced or whether it's been they've been living in that cave for centuries. I think whatever they found, and I'm sure if we did enough research, we could probably figure out who Dan is. It was they
Unless the
named the guy.
government scrubbed that from the records.
Yeah, that's true. I just tend to believe it. And especially like how you see a lot of these things were handled afterwards, where there's these people are hiding their, they're not the guy who was getting interviewed. He didn't go on there and kind of gave me like, yeah, and I also wrote a book about it. He had his like face scrubbed.
I didn't even consider that, but you're right.
He gets no benefit from this. I'm just inclined to believe it.
Interesting. I don't know how much of the Kandahar Giant story specifically I believe. Like, I definitely think that something happened. There was some sort of encounter. I don't know if somebody was killed. This Dan character, I don't know how much is over embellished because military guys talk. It's like the fisherman stuff. Like, oh, I caught a fish this big. The next time I tell the story, it was this big. The next time this big. However, there's, like you said, all these cultures have different. All these cultures have this different lore. And there's all some sort of remarkable similarity amongst it, which is, in of itself, that's interesting to say the least. I highly doubt that these Native Americans in Nevada had any sort of cross-pollination with folk in Afghanistan, especially when they do the archaeological excavations and you find out it's 1500 BC. Like that's pretty insane.
Yeah.
So now, do I think the government would be keeping stuff like this under wraps? Absolutely. Because whether there are ties to the Nephilim or not, I don't know if we'll ever know, or if we do, when that news breaks, it'll be shocking. But whether there's ties to Nephilim or not, we know the government has funded things like this before. We know the government has actually funded, I believe it's called Operation Stargazer, which was them trying to literally use technology and astral projection to tell the future. Or we've seen instances, again, MK Ultra, where they were effectively trying to make truth serums and mind control. Like, the idea that they would fund operations to try and secure cryptid creatures, Vikings, or not fucking Vikings, giants, or again, anything that has ties to biblical texts. There's rumors the fucking government knows the location, if they don't already have it, of the Ark of the Covenant. Like, things like that. There's people that believe that the movie The Men in Black was meant to throw us up the trail of the real Men in Black. So I don't doubt government involvement in any sort of things like this. When you've got all these backup stories that are not Hollywood-esque, it does make the Kandahar Giant story feel that much more plausible. And like you said, I didn't even consider that there's that soldier guy that's out there not selling books or anything. They have his face blocked out in the interview. If he's anything like what Cad was saying earlier, top secret clearance, if you break this story, you will motherfucking be put away for treason. And then you'll be discredited and people will think that you were a fool anyway. So yeah, this is one of those that I would say I err about 70% on the belief side of it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I was like, there's just enough, and honestly, going to both of seeing those guys' website is and all the ads and shit on there.
It adds enough skepticism.
It does. It's just enough, but all the collected reports and archaeological findings and things like that. But people will say that correlation doesn't cause causation, but there's something there. Just it's the same thing.
Correlation doesn't imply causation is the fact, but just because correlation doesn't imply causation doesn't mean that there can't be both correlation and causation.
Absolutely.
If I switch to a carnivore diet and I lose weight and the weight loss correlates to me switching my diet, okay, that's a time when correlation and causation are intertwined. I changed this thing and then there was a change that correlates with the cause. However, if there's more, if there's more gun violence in Iraq, if there's in Chicago, if there's more gun violence in Chicago, but gang activity is down, that doesn't imply that there's more white people committing crimes. Correlation does not necessarily imply causation in that regard. Like, there's too many variables. Correlation and causation go hand in hand when the more minimal you get the variables to be. And here, there really isn't a whole lot of variables. You've got a consistent location, consistent stories, consistent geography, relatively consistent military type personnel.
Well, inconsistent practices between the
Yeah.
town folk, where they're painting themselves, they're dyeing their hair red and offering them up goats. Like, I was like that. We heard that a couple times tonight.
Mhm.
So
Even with the vague info, it's too much of a coincidence. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter how
Absolutely.
vague the information is. If you get this same vague information over and over and over and over from different regions, different tribes, things like that, there's at least got to be something there. We can't speak to how much, but there's got to be something. I also do find it interesting. So I ran the new poll. Do you believe in giants now? And before, it was 60% believed they think they're real, but they think they were once real, but extinct now. And it was like pretty 50-50 split between the yes and the no. That's changed. It is now only 46% believes that they think they were real, but now extinct. The no they don't believe dropped from about 20% to 19%. So not much of a drop there. But the do you believe now yes jumped up from 20 to about 35%. So the people that didn't believe still don't believe. The people that are on the fence now are more likely to believe, is what this poll shows. Now, it's a pretty small poll, 26 votes of the 32 people watching. But it is still a change in people's beliefs. So, I mean, I find that to be interesting as well.
Indeed.
Well, guys, we're going to wrap up here shortly, but don't go anywhere. We will be rating our girl, Lumi Angler, Lum. We adore Lumi. So let's make sure that we go over there and say Vital Idol Raid, just to let you all know not to go anywhere, because we want to make sure we give other YouTubers the love. But that being said, Sammy, final thoughts on this, and then tell us who you are, where you do, where we can find you, what you got coming up, the whole nine.
Yeah. Excellent suggestion. This was a fun one. Yeah, I'm Sammy 3Pete. You can find me on all platforms at Sammy 3Pete. Now on Kick. I do have a Rumble, but I don't really like it. Not feeling it as much. I don't like the software.
That's why I don't do Rumble near as much. Twisted Reality says any RE4 tonight. Maybe. It depends on if Cinevere does a late night stream, I might join her for that. If she doesn't do a late night stream, I might do Resident Evil 4. We'll see. I can't go near as late as I did last night because I do have work tomorrow. But if Cinevere doesn't do a stream, then I will stream Resident Evil 4. If Cinevere does a stream, watch her, and I might appear on there with her. We'll see. But sorry, continue, Sammy. I just want to answer that question in case they're not sticking around much.
Not a problem at all. Other than that, yeah, you can find me back here every Tuesday. Thursday, I will be on Roman's show, like always. I don't know what diabolical movie he's gonna make us sit through this time, but I'm sure it's gonna be something good. After that, I'll go to my buddy Darnell's show. We just started a new police footage show, and it's called Two Sieves and a Pig. And we just watch some funny arrest videos. You can find it on that channel. And then, of course, Friday I will be the guest on New Black Street. I'm looking forward to that. And then Saturday and Sunday, I have my Batman show, Cavecast, and in other news every Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Bingo, bango, bongo. You fucking love to see it. Well, guys, that's for me. I do plan on having a video out tomorrow. I didn't do one today because I won't lie. I was having way too much fun streaming Resident Evil 4 into the wee hours of the morning. And I was up till like 5 a.m. streaming that bitch. And it was a good fucking time. Maybe we'll do more of that tonight. Who's to see? But I will have a video out tomorrow. And then tomorrow will be on Zach's show. Thursday, the Doolies. Friday, Friday, Neon Leon. We have got a banger guest for you guys. All right. I'm going to give you all a description. Of who the guest is. And we'll see if you can tell in the chat who's coming on the show. We got a hottie with a body, redhead gamer. Let's see if some of y'all can tell who that's going to be. When I say gamer, we talking tabletop. I mean video games as well, but known for tabletop. Didn't even know this person knew I existed, and she rated me last night during my Resident Evil 4 stream. Yes, Max K got it. Gamer Empress, 40K Empress will be the guest on Neon Leon this Friday. Yep, 40K Empress. For those of you guys saying Vera, close. I understand why you thought Vera. Maybe at some point we can get Vera on the show. I don't know. Me and Vera have never actually had any interaction with one another. But yes, Piranha Pal does pay good attention. But yes, 40K Empress will be the guest for Neon Leon this week. So that's going to be an absolute banger. Yes, she to be a Bile Job Red. I think Vera is also Bile Job Red, to be fair. Either way, yeah, 40K is going to be a great show. This will be the first time her and I ever really interacting. Again, I've been following her on X. She's been following me, but we've never really talked. So she rated me last night during Resident Evil 4. And I was like, holy fuck, I've been wanting to talk with you for ages. I didn't even know you knew who I was. And her and I, after the Resident Evil 4 stream last night, her and I were dimming for a while. And so, yeah, she's coming on Neon Leon this Friday. It'll be a great show. So, yes, y'all know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe, watch for videos throughout the course of the week. I truly hope you enjoyed this. We are continuing to do more and more deep dives and just great fun on TFH, Tinfoil Haters. And beyond that, for those of you that donated, thank you so much for donating. You never have to, but you do. It means the absolute world to me. For those of you that can't or don't or whatnot, I just like having you here in the chat, and that is also great. You help spur the conversation. You give great insights. So many of you guys in chat for these specific episodes are such help because throwing out shit that we missed or didn't come up with or just asking questions. Like again, the TFH chat, you guys are goated. And with that, what was that, Sammy?
No, I'm just saying goated for sure. I mean,
absolutely
amazing.
And with that, it's all here in the Nerdosphere. This has been Words of Paradise.